If asked which cell in our body is the most important, I would say they are all important, but they each have different functions. For example, the cells that make up the vocal cords allow us to sing. The cells of leg muscles allow us to jump. The cells that make up the tongue allow us to rap. Cells that make up our hands allow us to play basketball. They are all equally important to the human body. But if you ask, which cell in our body is the most powerful, then it must be a series of immune cells. The immune system it constitutes is like a well-trained army, fighting all the time to protect our bodies. In terms of sociology, even if he fails, like us office workers who don't have the IPs for dramas, no love, no MVP in games, and no real money. But biologically, our immune system is one of the most sophisticated and successful systems. To put it this way, you may slack off at work, but your immune system will never slack off. When a virus enters a normal human cell, it starts to develop stealthily and replicates a lot, although its ultimate goal is to be strong and create brilliance. But at this time, it will not immediately kill the cell. The purpose is to disguise, to evade the immune system's detection. You caught the evil virus. What does it have to do with my good cells? But as long as they develop enough, they will break out of the shell. At this time, damaged cells release cytokines and sound the alarm. The first to respond are macrophages. As the name suggests, their characteristic is that they are big because of their large size. For them, they often use the most primitive way in high-level battles, which is to eat the virus. A macrophage can eat about 10,000 viruses. How can this little virus be enough? If the white blood cells next door see this, they might think we can't afford to eat them. But if there are too many viruses to eat, macrophages will also release cytokines, calling for reinforcements, neutrophils, which is a type of white blood cells next door. They are a group of tougher fighters than macrophages. They only believe in one thing, that they fight the elite. When encountering viruses, they will only cut them down. The big viruses are rejected by me. Those shorter than them, what about the smaller ones? Died on the spot. When the battle enters a fever pitch, these crazy neutrophils will release toxins to viruses and normal human cells and start attacking indiscriminately. If that doesn't work, they have their last resort. Thousands of neutrophils start a suicidal attack. They died with the virus. The thick snot when you raise sick are the dead neutrophils and macrophages. This is not snot. These are the corpses of heroes. When we were kids, we would swallow snot, which is like sending the heroes back home. As the battle becomes more intense, the hypothalamus of the body will also raise the body temperature by 1 or 2 degrees to reduce the virus activity. Meanwhile, higher body temperature will make metabolism faster. Macrophages and neutrophils will be more agile. It's like buffing our side and a debuff to the enemy. Of course, this buff will make us a little uncomfortable. After this series of operations, if the virus is still replicating wildly and can't be killed, macrophages and neutrophils have been beaten back. What's the use? It seems that this is a high-level game. At this time, dendritic cells come into play. They look very similar to macrophages, but after engulfing the virus, they will immediately withdraw from the battlefield and draw a portrait of the virus. Then they ran to the lymph nodes. Why did they run? In the lymph nodes, there are hundreds of millions of special forces T cells are on standby. Each of them is different. Each has its own characteristics. They'll follow the picture. The purpose is to find T cells that can inhibit this virus. That is to say, if the virus looks like a bottle cap, then the T cells with a mouth like a bottle opener should be found. If the virus looks like a screw, then the T cells that look like wrenches should be found. In short, is to fight against this virus, to kill it just right. The process of finding the right T cells, it often takes 3 to 4 days. After finding them, T cells are replicated massively. Special forces are dispatched to the battlefield. We'll further differentiate into killer T cells and helper T cells. The former is responsible for fighting the virus head-on, while the latter is responsible for buffing. Buff the already exhausted macrophages to make them rise again. Finally, a small number of T cells will remain in the lymph nodes and continue to bite. Who are the ultimate killer? B cells. These B cells will not fight the virus head-on. Humans use their brains. They will develop special high-tech weapons. To develop specialized high-tech weapons, which are antibodies and can be fired remotely. You can imagine that the viruses on the battlefield at this time are all reckless fighters in close combat, while B cells quietly took out the Italian gun. Long range against close range. I have the advantage. The final decision of the victory of this war is the B cell. As the saying goes, T cells are hard. B cells are both tall and hard. After a complete victory, in order not to occupy human resources, B cells and T cells will also selflessly. They will commit suicide in place. They will go to serve and hide their achievements. I really cry. However, they will still leave a small part. They will respectively transform into memory T cells when the same virus invades next time. They don't need to rely on outputting cells. It's not so troublesome to call for help. T cells that have remembered the appearance of the virus and B cells will directly go to the battlefield and kill the virus in the cradle. It can be seen from the above that In a whole process of fighting against viruses, the professionalism of our immune system is no less than a modern war. Among them, cytokines are the early warning system and battlefield positioning system. B lymphocytes are the vanguard. Neutrophils are the death squads. Output cells are the information transmission system. The hypothalamus will cooperate and create a favorable battlefield environment. T cells are special forces. B lymphocytes are the high-level scientific research force. So I said that earlier. These immune cells are the most capable cells in our body. It should be meaningless. This immune system also has a small bug. As we mentioned earlier, the process of output cells following the trail. It often takes 3 to 4 days. But if a person has too few output cells, the process of calling for reinforcements will be infinitely prolonged. Various T cells cannot participate in the battle in time. Macrophages and neutrophils can't wait for reinforcements and have to continue fighting. Then they and the infected cells will continuously release cytokines. As we mentioned earlier, cytokines are the battlefield positioning system. When there are cytokines everywhere in the body, the neutrophils will not know where the battlefield is. Or they think everywhere is the battlefield. Then it launches indiscriminate attacks on cells, attacks which is a cytokine storm. Once a cytokine storm occurs, our bodies will be killed by our own immune system, killing 800 enemies and self-destruct 801. However, in a sense, cytokine storm may not be a bug of the immune system, but intentional. In other words, if there are too many cockroaches in the room, no matter how you try to kill them, then burning a house down is also a good way. Although this sacrifices individuals, but the individual dies, it can prevent the virus from spreading and protects the group. I said, the person who invented the immune system is a genius. This is also consistent with our previous point of view. Genes don't care about the life or death of individuals for the continuation of the group, often sacrifices individuals. Say the name. Scared you.